demands of Industry 4.0, we in academia should play the role as transformation drivers to prepare graduates that meet the current and future needs while addressing the challenges. As engineering educators, improvement for a holistic curriculum in the academic program is required, taking into account the current changes and demands of the global arena, especially in effective teaching and learning. In response to the global demands, UTM has launched the Future Ready Educators Aspiration as an initiative to support future-ready curriculum for the millennials by developing community of practice in teaching and learning. Thus, it is timely that STLEE is organized this year and serve as our step forward in making the UTM Future Ready Educators Aspiration a success. The symposium is initiated by the school's New Academia Learning Innovation or NALI committee and the Future Ready Educators Committee to provide a platform for electrical engineering educators and practitioners to share innovation in their teaching and learning journey towards best practice of the 21st century education with the theme Empowering 21st Century Educators for Electrical Engineering Practices. It is our hope that STLEE 2021 can provide a conducive environment for discussion in developing scholarly practitioners among electrical engineering educators. Last but not least, I would like to thank the STLEE 2021 committee for preparing and organizing the event. The support and commitment from the school's top management, especially our chair, as well as colleagues at the School of Electrical Engineering, made it possible for STLEE 2021 to become a reality. I would also like to express my deepest appreciation to all participants and attendees for their enthusiasm, commitment, and contribution towards STLEE 2021. It is a pleasure to welcome all of you to the first symposium on teaching and learning practices in electrical engineering. May it be a greatly productive and meaningful experience for all. Thank you and wassalam.
Thank you so much, Dr. Effendi, for the wonderful remarks. And now, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, we will have the opening speech for this symposium. With this, I invite the Chair of the School of Electrical Engineering, Professor Dr. Muhammad Wazir bin Mustafa, to deliver his opening remarks and thereby formally officiate the event. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Professor Wazir.
Thank you, MC Dr. Zaid Omar. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. Assalamualaikum and very good morning to all. The Honorable Chair of STLEE 2021, Associate Professor Dr. Mak Effendi, SKE Management Team, Keynote Speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Nazihar, Committee Member of First Symposium on Teaching and Learning Practices in Electrical Engineering, or STLEE 2021, to all students, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of SKE UTM, I would like to wish Selamat Datang or welcome to the first Symposium on Teaching and Learning Practices in Electrical Engineering 2021. I would like to extend my deepest appreciation to the committee of organizing STLEE 2021, also as you know, new normal by online due to COVID-19 pandemic. So STLEE is the first teaching and learning event led fully by the School of Electrical Engineering UTM that serve as a platform for practitioners and researchers to interact and discuss on continuing and emerging issues relating to electrical engineering education. So in line with the theme Empowering 21st Century Educators for Electrical Engineering Practices, STLEE 21 aims to inspire participants to share innovations in their teaching and learning journey that can be shared and emulated among academics in higher education worldwide. So we are currently witnessing a significant transformation in the development of education. So the essential and challenging elements of this transformation process that have to be tackled in education include the impact of globalization on all areas of human life, the exponential acceleration of the technology development, and the need of flexibility and agility. In response to this transformation process, it's partly our responsibility to provide the direction and the contents with which education can help to master future challenges for society. So, but first, we need to prepare. We need to prepare ourselves as educators to these challenges and changes. In this era of globalization, changes in the education system at tertiary level are taking place at very fast rates. Adding to that, the education landscape is forced to change with the COVID-19 pandemic. So these changes have a significant effect on learning and teaching, as well as continuous enhancement of quality to achieve high standard in education programs. So many initiatives and incentives are implemented by higher learning institutions to improve the quality of teaching so as to improve the learning outcomes of students. STLEE serves as an important part of the commitment to develop and support change agents in higher education. It's our hope that this effort will lead to better quality and standard for higher education, not only in UTM, but also throughout the world. We also hope that the symposium will continue and be a trigger to inspire others who are equally involved in the discussion, research, and delivery of engineering education for the development of the nation. Putting together the symposium is a team effort. It's a team effort that I would like to congratulate the organizing committee headed by Associate Professor Dr. Effendi. So to all participants, we hope you will use this precious opportunity to your fullest towards becoming a scholarly practitioner. And I sincerely hope that you will find this museum both valuable and enjoyable. Last but not least, on behalf of school top management, I would like to thank all parties that have contributed towards the success of this event. So this includes the organizing committee, academic staff, student, and SKE supporting staff for assisting the committee during the event. Finally, to congratulate to all participants for great effort to realize the STLEE 2021. So with Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, STLEE 2021 is declared open. Sekian wabillahi taufiq hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Our utmost gratitude goes to Professor Wazir and the school for the immense support in organizing this event. Now, moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, the keynote speech for today is entitled Planning for Career Advancement in Teaching Track, and it will be delivered by Associate Professor Dr. Naziha Ahmad Azli. The esteemed Dr. Naziha is an Associate Professor in the School of Electrical Engineering, Faculty of Engineering, UTM, and is also the Director of Curriculum Innovation and Development Unit, or CIDU, UTM. As an academic staff who has been trained in cooperative learning and problem-based learning, Dr. Naziha has initiated the Problem-Based Laboratory, or PB Lab, at the school in 2007, when holding the post as the fourth-year collaboratory coordinator. She is a strong advocate for future-ready educators, or FREE, at UTM, which is a community that aims to drive academic staff to become competent practitioners of student-centered learning strategies. Her working experience for the past 33 years at UTM has allowed her to actively provide training on outcome-based education, or OBE, to participants of higher education institutions, both locally and internationally since 2010. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us give a big welcome to Associate Professor Dr. Naziha Ahmad Azli to present her talk. Over to you, Professor.
Thank you, Dr. Zaid. All right, okay. I'm honored to be invited here today for the keynote address. And I would say as an opening that this initiative from SKE, STLEE 2021 is, I would say, the first that derives from Future Ready Educators program that we have started since 2019. Okay, so I very much appreciate the effort made by the school, and I would like to thank the administration of SKE for supporting this initiative. So with that, I think I will start my keynote address, and I would like to also say that this will be actually the first symposium related to FREE that I've been invited to. Of course, I have been to other faculties. They have made some other programs, but not as a bigger scale as initiated by SKE, which is a symposium on teaching and learning practices. So with that, I will start my keynote address. I will share my screen. Okay, I was actually asked to choose a topic for this symposium, for this keynote address. I think I have about half an hour maybe, and maybe after that a Q&A. I probably finish earlier, but I will just go through with you the planning for career advancements in teaching track. Okay. Why I chose this topic is because since the implementation of teaching track by the university, the introduction, the university introduces the differentiated career pathway for UTM. So we can see that from our ELPPT itself, it actually embeds or come up with a new way of assessing lecturers on the teaching and learning. Okay, for your information, when we started off with the pathway, differentiated pathway for career advancement for UTM, we did not focus at all on ELPPT because it started off with just the promotion track, which is we have 4, but we were requested to actually come up with another list of assessment criteria for the ELPPT just recently actually, but we started off the initiative for DCP, Differentiated Career Path, in 2016 actually. Okay, but actually, and we took a lot of time to actually come up with the criteria for teaching. Okay, so I am only one of those involved in creating this criteria. Okay, there are many others who are also involved in the group. Okay, so I would like to start with my focus now here is on the promotion, not on ELPPT. So I hope you'll be clear on that. All right. So UTM promotion criteria actually has these 4 components. Okay, teaching, research, publication, and supervision are the components, professional practice, and academic leadership. So we have 4 tracks: research track, teaching track, professional practice track, and institutional leadership track. Okay, so I would also like to say that for ELPPT, it's a bit different than what we have for promotion criteria. For ELPPT, you can actually, I think the first 3 years, we are allowed to actually switch whichever track that we want to be assessed for that particular year. Okay, if I'm not mistaken, after 3 years, then you will have to follow the track for ELPPT based on what you have chosen for your promotion criteria track. Okay, that means if you chose research track, then for ELPPT also you'll be assessed on research track. But now you can still choose. That means even though you choose DCP as research track, but you can be request or inform that, I mean, you can actually, you will be asked to choose which one would you prefer to be assessed on for that particular year. Okay, so basically for teaching track, 50% will be assessed on teaching, 25% on your research, publication, and supervision, 10% on professional practice, and academic leadership also 10%. So you would have to have those portions, yeah, in your during your career as a lecturer until the time that you want to be promoted. So my focus here is more on the first level, okay, which is for the S54, 53. Okay, so because this is the starting for the track for the 4 tracks of career of promotion. So because of that, then most people are not familiar with what actually will you be assessed on. Okay, I'm not sure, but I think many is not very clear on this. So what kind of preparation that you have to make? Because if you are a new lecturer, then you would first know where your category is, which I will show you after this, and after that, only you will choose your track. Which track would you prefer for your promotional track? Okay, so once you get into that promotional track, then you should be also already planning. Okay, from your first 3 years, you already plan. Okay, which track are you going into, and what is your initiative, so that when it comes to the time when you want to apply for promotion, you are ready. Okay, so this is what I'm trying to put here in my keynote today. Okay, so for research track, of course, research, publication, and supervision is actually 60%. Okay, and teaching is just 25% as well. Okay, but more on research, publication, and supervision. So, okay, I'll go to the next one. Okay, this is the basic principle of the teaching track. So, some maybe at the university level, some people will know how this teaching track criteria is derived. But as I mentioned just now, it comes from various people from various faculty. So we sit together and actually discuss on this. Okay, so we have a few from engineering, and the leader was actually from the School of Education. But when he actually retired, so I actually took the responsibility to continue heading this teaching track committee. Okay, so but now I am not the leader of the committee. The university has actually put the responsibility to whoever is the director for CTL. Okay, UTM lead teaching and learning. Okay, so with that, at the moment, the head of the teaching track committee is PM Dr. Hayati, right? Although she is not the director anymore, but she took the responsibility earlier before she actually stepped down from UTM lead teaching and learning. So it is a promotion to a certain grade based on academic staff's achievement and ability to be in command of the set minimum competency. So we come up with the minimum competency, which if you already know, I'm sure, if you go to ELPPT, you can see the rubrics and you see that we actually have a minimum competency, which is level 2, right? So minimum competency consists of 2, which is baseline competencies, BC, and differentiated competencies, DC. So in the promotion track for all track in the promotion initiatives, right? For all tracks will be assessed on baseline competencies. And if you actually choose the teaching track, then you will be assessed on the differentiated competencies. So this is the DC is the one that I'm going to emphasize for your preparation or your planning if you are in the teaching track. Okay. So the level of ability to be in command on BC is the same for all academic staff. This is what I mentioned just now, regardless of the track chosen. But for DC applies only for those who have chosen the teaching track. Okay, one thing that I want to emphasize, you see the tracks, you see the criteria, but you don't know why is it that those are the criteria. Okay, so actually it is based on approach and impact. Okay, the approach and the impact of your teaching, that is what we want to see in the criteria, which depends on the level of teaching achievement and also the range of influence. Okay, so basically our main reference was from documents from RAE, Royal Academy Engineering in UK. Okay, so they have actually, it is a world initiative actually for teaching track, or in other words, in their approach, it is an initiative to honor or to give appreciation to those engineering teachers out there. Okay, so because we know worldwide criteria for promotion is basically based on research. Okay, so this is an initiative by RAE to actually give some credits to those who are actually good teachers, okay, in engineering. They talk about engineering because it's Royal Academy Engineering. Okay, but we use this model to actually develop our own criteria. And until now, RAE is in touch with UTM because they put us as a sample, at least in Southeast Asia, who actually uses their framework, which basically you can see from this diagram, you have teaching achievement versus reward for teaching achievement. They categorize it as effective teacher, first level. First, you become the effective teacher, and then skilled and collegial teacher, and move forward to scholarly teacher or institutional leader in teaching and learning, and lastly, national and global leader in teaching and learning. So naturally, when we use this, we actually map it to our own promotion tracks, promotion level. Okay, so we look at it as effective teacher is below, okay, below the promotion level, okay, which is when you come into the university, then you should start to make initiatives to become an effective teacher through your attitudes and your delivery. Okay, so that is actually being the UTM lead teaching and learning actually have a drive, a plan on this, whereby they have what is called as BC for DCP, basic competencies for DCP. And basic competencies for DCP consists of from teaching, research, and other tracks as well. So there are elements of those different tracks. So at that point, academic staff is expected to see which one they are inclined on. Yeah? And then at the same time, they have to, those are the basic things that they should know for all respective tracks. Okay, so that is introduced when you first come into the university as new lecturers. So that the level for teaching, we call it as effective teacher. And then for promotion to 53 and 54, okay, we expect that the level will be skilled and collegial teacher. So these two actually very close to each other for the both levels. So effective teacher and skilled and collegial teacher is the level that will help you to be promoted in teaching track, under teaching track for 53 and 54. And leadership, okay, and knowledge, because just now we have two tracks there. Okay, we put two different tracks for VK7, whereby you can become the institutional leader in teaching and learning at that level. So I'll show you a bit later on the two different tracks. Okay, you have teaching track, but under teaching track for VK7, there is two different pathways. Okay, and lastly is a national and global leader in teaching and learning, which is VK6, 6, and even 5. Okay, so you have to be at the level of being an influencer. Okay, at national and global level, right? So I'll go through with you this a bit later, but this is basically the framework that we use for teaching track. Okay, and the evidence of teaching achievement. So we need to get the evidence of your teaching achievement. In research, we know that it's all quantitative. Okay, that means how many journals, how many publications, how many students you graduates under you, okay, for PhD, for masters, and so on. Okay, so it goes for numbers. But in teaching track, based on the framework that we refer to, the preparation for the evidence of teaching achievement has to be more than that. There is some quantitative, but mostly is qualitative. Okay, so that is the difficult part, the challenging part. Okay, nobody has ever done this way. Okay, so we started to look at, as I mentioned just now, two main characteristics: the approach and the impact. The approach of your teaching and learning, or learning and teaching, and also what impact does it bring to others? That is the main thing. So we look at it on the impact, of course, impact. Then how do we measure impact? We have to look at the measurements of student learning. And people have to say that, oh, you are a good teacher. You're a good lecturer. How? Okay, peer review and recognition. That is why some people were asking, why do we have, even in LPPT, you require us to give evidence on that? Okay, and people started to find ways for students to give them good remarks. Okay, so that is not actually the purpose. Okay, it has to come naturally from the student on their opinion on your teaching. Okay, so that will give us some indication that you are being recognized by your students, you are being recognized by your peers. Okay, and then on the approach, we look at the self-assessment and reflection. That means this applies also to LPPT, because you know that you need to fill in the teaching philosophy. So that part is actually you assessing your own self, reflecting what you actually want to do in your teaching. Okay, and then we also look at your professional activities. Okay, for your information, in the system nowadays, what we have is most of it is actually extracted from your 7P. Okay, so we extract direct into tests for measurement of your teaching achievement. Okay, for the evidence of your teaching achievement. So most of it is already automated. Only a few things that you need to provide. Okay, but most of it is already there, and then later on will be calculated based on the criteria given. Okay, so the same for DCP. For the same for promotion wise, how this is assessed will be based on whatever is already there that you have put in your Radis, in Radis, and what you have already put in your 7P. Okay, is extracted from there. Okay, so these are again the domains of the teaching evidence. Okay, you can see from lower level, as I mentioned just now, skilled and collegial teacher and effective teacher. Okay, more portion is on the approach. Okay, and less on the impact. So we look at more on your approach rather than the impact. As you go to higher level for promotion, we have institutional leader in teaching and learning. This is what I mentioned just now. We divided it into two. Okay, two pathways. When you go for VK7, you have two different pathways to choose from, which is you being an institutional leader in teaching and learning, or you being a scholarly teacher. There are some differences there. Not much, but there are some differences. And some different expectations as well. So you see, there's less portion on self-assessment and professional activities, but more on measures of student learning and peer review and recognition. Actually, the committee have difficulty also to identify on the part of measures of student learning, and to identify the evidence. What kind of evidence do we want, right? So this is on the way. And higher level, you become a national leader. So again, you can see that the portion on the approach is less, but more on what other people say about you. Okay. And finally, as you go to higher level, right, not much difference, but impact on the peer review and recognition is very much higher for being an international leader in teaching. Okay. Okay, so I don't want to dwell so much on that. All right, so here it says who are the range of influence come from who, okay, or what. So at lower level, the students play the more role. That is why we want testimony and so on. Okay, but we want the testimony to come from a genuine way of how your student think about you, which usually will appear in your EPPP. Okay, but if your student doesn't write much, then there's nothing to put as your evidence, right? So those are the kind of things that you should be aware of. I know that some lecturers actually give out special form for students to fill in, but all this has to come with integrity, yeah, with integrity. So you have to be careful on this as well, right? It looks like something very, it's just a simple thing, but it could affect you in terms of the students' perspective on how you get the data, okay, of them actually saying whether you are a good lecturer or not, giving responses on the questions that you ask. We don't put any, we don't say that it's not a good way of doing it, but the timing has to be correct. Maybe at the end of the semester, perhaps, yeah, when the students have got all their marks, because we don't want the students to feel that if they don't give you good remark, then their marks will be penalized, because it may not be a close identity for you to actually get the feedback from the students. So you have to do it the right way if you want to do it that way. Okay, for this testimony is important actually. And then you go to the next level, again, comes from students, academic peers, and also stakeholders at institutional level. And for scholarly teacher, pedagogical and scholar communities, yeah, other than students and academic peers. That is why we have also feedback from peers, which actually we wanted, we proposed it, or actually it has been approved by the university for us to make, to have this teaching observation, so that your academic peers will be able to evaluate you and see if what you are doing is actually something that that entitles you to have that level of scholarly teacher or institutional leader in teaching and learning. But of course, throughout the years, we see that things may change. I don't know, but I've heard that some changes will be made. So perhaps, which is usually based on feedback from academic staff. So perhaps teaching observation may be scrapped from the evaluation. What I'm giving you now is what is the current status. If things may change in 1 or 2 years, because DCP criteria is currently being revised. Okay, so I don't know. So you can see the difference maybe in any time soon. But what I'm giving now is based on what we designed it initially, and it is still valid for now. Okay, so national leader, we go more on pedagogical and scholarly communities, connected stakeholders at national level, and for international level, also the same. Okay, the difference between VK7 and VK6 and 5. VK7 has different criteria. VK6 and 5 has similar criteria, but the achievement, percentage of achievement will determine whether you can go up to the level of VK5. Okay, so that is basically how we design the teaching track for UTM. Okay, so I will start with, as I said just now, I just want to focus with this, so I have to make this quick. I don't have much time. So effective teacher and skilled and and skilled and collegial teacher, which is the level 1, which allows you to be promoted to 54, 53. Okay. So we look at the self-assessment and reflection, which is the basic competency. I think this is what you already put in your yearly assessment for your ELPPT. Okay. And then professional activities. This is also what you put in your ELPPT, which is BC, basic competencies. The quality of your course file, the quality of your course assessment report, and also your implementation of non-conventional teaching and learning strategies. Actually, free Future Ready Educator program is initiated to help you out in terms of the implementation of non-conventional teaching and learning strategies. If you talk about conventional, that means it's teaching, lecturing, just what we often do, okay? But if it's non-conventional, it's other than that. That is why we actually promote you to conduct your courses via active learning, project-based learning, problem-based learning, anything that is student-centered learning, okay? All right, for DC, differentiated competency. Now, this is for those who actually are in teaching track. Part of it is assessed in your ELPPT, because those who are not who did not choose teaching, they will not see some of this appear in their ELPPT evaluation, okay, criteria. But those who have chosen teaching in their yearly assessment, which I said just now, it can change. Yeah, you can change it within the 3 years. So then you will see some of this appear in your ELPPT. So number 1 is participation in learning and teaching communities, groups of different level, involvement in supporting students' activities, participation in learning and teaching programs, involvement in academic program auditing, membership in learning and teaching organization. So when you know this criteria, then you have to prepare from now. Because usually the time for promotion for 54 is 5 years from the time you become a lecturer in UTM. That is the minimum, okay? So some people will take longer time, maybe 6 years, 7 years, but typically we can set it for 5 years. That is the typical promotion time for lecturers, okay? So some of this has appeared in your ELPPT, but some have not. Yeah? Membership in learning and teaching organization. So for example, for engineering educators, we have the Society of Engineering Educators Malaysia, SEM. Okay, so you have to be a member in the learning and teaching organization. There are others, yeah, you can join international or national at national level. So these are the things that I would like to emphasize, so that when come the time that you want to be promoted, you have this already, you have prepared for it. Okay. Other than that is the extent of learning and teaching research, the number of learning and teaching research grants, and total sum of learning and teaching research grants. Okay. All right. Again, we also have the quantitative part, is the number of credits you have been teaching for the past few years before you decide to get yourself promoted. So there is some a number of credits that you have to achieve first. It's like a gatekeeper before you get yourself prepared for promotion at 54. Okay, and then attendance in learning and teaching training. Okay, so you have to have this also. All right. Okay, on the measurements of student learning, okay, you can see that there is the average score in EPPP, which is still under basic competency. You know that this is also evaluated in your ELPPT. And this one, unsolicited, excuse me, solicited feedback testimony from student. This is also the one in your ELPPT, which I mentioned just now. How do I get this? Yeah, how do you want to get this? The legal way of getting this feedback from your student, even the alumni. Okay, even your alumni. All right. So when it comes to DC, which is the one that you need to prepare for your promotion, we look at the quality of students' performance on concepts or topics with evidence of contributing factor through innovative learning and teaching method. That means, let's say you have already identified your innovative learning and teaching method. Okay, then you have to measure the quality of the students' performance on the concept or topics and with evidence. Okay, now this actually relates to And whether you like it or not, you have to get yourself involved in scholarship of teaching and learning or STLEE. Okay, then only you can get this data. And then assessment of students' learning, journals or portfolios. That means you have to have a part of your course whereby you actually have the students prepare portfolios, okay, or learning journals, right, which you will assess. Okay, and then you will be assessed on how you assess your student. Okay, that's what it means here for your differentiated competency. And for peer review and recognition, okay, this is what you already see, which is the average score in teaching. You have not seen this, but this is basic competency. This is what we suggested, the teaching observation by your colleague to indicate the peer just now, and by teaching expert for recognition. But as I mentioned, if this is scrapped from this part, then maybe they will come up with other ways of assessing peer review and recognition. The committee suggested teaching observation, but this may change depending on the new committee. Yeah, maybe they think, oh, it's overwhelming. Some people think that it's like school days, whereby people come and observe teaching, how the teachers teach. Okay, and some people think this is a disgrace to the academia. Okay, I'm not sure, but this is what we actually propose, because we benchmark with other universities as well. All right, okay. All right, other than that, okay, peer review and recognition. Also, we look at recognition from your awards, teaching awards. This is again similar to just now. This is DC for promotion. Feedback from various individuals, including teaching mentors. So you should have mentors for teaching in the university. We did have this a few years back, under 1 or 2 years back, under UTM Lead Teaching and Learning, whereby they have mentors that lecturers under teaching track can actually engage themselves with mentors in teaching to indicate again impact and range of influence, right? Okay, and then awards, publication, and level of publication. Okay, other than that, I have put it here as well. Okay, these are all the some glossaries from the previous thing that I mentioned. Okay, when we say committees or groups, it has to be related to learning and teaching only, or teaching and learning. Student activities, just now it says that you have to be a mentor, or you become the academic staff who supports the student and learning, the students' activities. Whether it is as you can see here, what kind of activities, competitions, community projects. So you have to have evidence on this, that you actually support the student activities, special projects, visits, study skills, and so on. The learning and teaching programs that we mentioned, just now I put in one of the list. The programs are related to learning and teaching only, okay, which include conferences, workshops, competition, forum, etc. Auditing, you have to be involved in academic program auditing. So if you don't see that going on now, maybe you can request from your directors, whether you can actually be involved in academic program auditing, so that you have this as your achievement, okay? Including auditing by professional bodies, whether you are the auditee or you are the auditor. In this case, even if you are the auditee, then you are said to be involved in academic program auditing. And then, of course, publication and learning and teaching publications only. Okay. All right. When we talk about learning and teaching publication, that means it's related to your learning and teaching. That's why, whether you like it or not, you have to be involved in STLEE. You have to know more about that. I think last 2-3 months, UTM Leads Teaching and Learning actually invited somebody from UNIMAS, a professor from UNIMAS, to talk about STLEE. So those who are in the teaching track, you have to be involved in STLEE, so that you can have evidence for various activities that I mentioned just now in my previous slide. Okay. So these are other things, when you talk about innovative teaching and learning method, what does it mean? Proper documentation, When you say research in what? Research in learning and teaching only, okay? Of course, you still have to do your research in your field, because you're also required to fulfill some of the research criteria from the research track, okay? But you have to balance between the two. You have to have proper documentation, okay? Analysis. Good teachers actually have a lot of critical reflection on themselves, on other people, on their teaching, on the learning of the students, right? So those are the things that you have to have in your mind when you actually sit in the teaching track, okay? And then innovative teaching and learning method, as I mentioned, these are some examples: AL, CL, PBL, work-based or integrated learning, work-integrated learning, CDIO, right? Flexible learning, etc. And these are some of the glossaries for minimal impact, sufficient impact, or deep impact. Okay, I don't want to elaborate on that, but you will see this in your rubrics, yeah? Because they mention minimal impact. What is minimal impact? So those are the explanation. Okay, the same with the 3 items from one of the rubrics. And again, for awards, it's related to learning and teaching, meaning teaching award, right? And learning and teaching publications, yeah, which is related to learning and teaching related publications only. So to sum up, okay, what do you need to do to plan? How do you plan? Okay, you have to get yourself trained. You have to practice. You have to act. That means have activities revolving around you related to this. Share, yeah, and collect. Train means, okay, what kind of training should you go to, right? For learning and teaching, pedagogy, andragogy, and then CTL, UTM Lead, CTL also provide training on digital resources, okay? How to write your teaching philosophy, reflection writing. I think there's a lot that has been offered. Assessment, like alternative assessment. How do you assess your student? How do you assess when your students write reflection? You ask them to write reflection. So how do you assess this reflection? It's not just a matter of reflection, but you need to assess, okay, on their learning from the reflection that they provide. Portfolio, yeah, assess the portfolio. How do you assess students' portfolio? And lastly, SOTL. This is what I mentioned just now. Get yourself trained on what is SOTL and how do I implement it. I can say in a short description is that SOTL relates to you researching on your own teaching and learning method that you implement in your own course, in your own subject. It's about how you best teach or you best get your students to fulfill all the learning outcomes. What is the best approach? What is the best method? Okay, and with SOTL, you require to actually do the CQI and make improvement based on the initial initiative on your teaching. Okay, you can come up with one write-up, which becomes maybe perhaps in a paper publication, just like what you have here in this symposium. And after that, you actually do the analysis. You actually see how you can improve, right? And you plan. Planning is very important in SOTL. So those are the characteristics that you have to know, and therefore you have to be trained, okay? And practice. Practice means always ready in terms of the course planning and implementation based on your chosen learning and teaching strategy. And in fact, for example, if you are conducting a cooperative learning, okay? So you are trained on how to conduct cooperative learning in your course, and based on your course, you can actually come up with different methods, additional, which is like dedicated to that particular subject or course. So that becomes something novel. Okay, that is also what you can do in the practice, right? And in that practice, because you choose a different way, let's say it's cooperative learning, but you have a slightly different method that you impose. So that becomes something novel, but others have not done that in their course. Maybe they have done this in other course, but not in your particular course, right? So from there, you actually improve. And every semester, you actually plan it, how you want to make changes and so on. So that is SOTL. Okay, that relates to SOTL. And there are many things required that actually a must for you to be involved in SOTL. Okay, ACT is more like activities actually. You have to be, for example, become an active member of FREE. Okay, we have a subgroup, FREE subgroup. Okay, we have active, we have the group, we have subgroup, we have group leader, we have subgroup leader, right? So you are the member and you are in the community of FREE actually, if you are a member. And active means you are actively collectively doing things in the group. Okay, and that is activities which you actually can report in your achievement. Okay, and other learning and teaching groups. Okay, it can be in Malaysia or outside Malaysia. Learning and teaching grant applications. Okay, learn how to do your auditing. Okay, if there is a training on auditing, or maybe you can join. So things like that. You have to know yourself what you need to do. Okay, and then willing to support student activities. Okay? If there is an opportunity to support student activities, so you volunteer to do it because you need it. All right. So that is the things that you need to do. I'm just worried that you don't realize that these are the things that you need to do. Okay, and in the end, when you are required to submit, you don't have this criteria fulfilled. Okay. And then share, of course, through publication of papers, okay, participation in competitions, share what you have done, right? And then, you know, make a scholarly effort, your scholarly work to be presented in conferences and journals and so on. Again, this involves SOTL. And lastly is to collect, okay, collect the evidence. Make sure all evidence of teaching achievement is recorded, okay, feedback, testimony, and others. And as I mentioned just now, we need to get this with integrity. Okay, that's it. So I think the time is up. Is it, Dr. Zaid?
You still have time, Doctor.
So I still have time. Okay, all right. Okay, if I still have time, I'm going to continue a bit, and then maybe Q&A, right? So if there is. So basically, if you go to higher level, okay, just want to introduce you on this. This is scholarly teacher versus institutional and global leader. Okay, so these are, again, the topic is self-assessment and reflection. Okay, applies to both tracks, both pathways. Okay, so for the differences comes with again, you need efforts for improvement. These are all reflection, your own reflection. Yeah, it's not that you need to get the referral for other practitioners. No, it's your reflection. Okay. For the scholarly teacher, you need reflection on knowledge and practice on evidence-based approaches on student learning. For institutional and global leader, you need to have different, like, impact of innovative teaching and learning approaches, including academic supervision. And also you become a mentor. You become the mentor now because you're already VK7. Okay, you are already applying for VK7. So you have to have your reflection on mentor to academic or to academic peers. So these are the professional activities. For both, again, active member of learning and teaching RG with grant, extent of research, number of learning and teaching research grant, total sum of learning and teaching research grant. Okay. And then we divide this into two. For institutional and global leader, we have different sets of requirement. And for scholarly teacher, we have different set. Okay. And then on measures of student learning, okay. For scholarly teacher, we will like to look at the artifact or products, okay, from your learning and teaching. But for global leader, we look at the impact of learning and teaching innovations, impact of mentorship or supervision. And whereas here we look more on your measurement or your impact of learning and teaching approach, because here you focus more on your teaching. Okay. And of course, under peer review and recognition, you know that peer review and recognition is a bigger impact as you go to higher level. So this is what we have here. So I don't want to go through, but you can see the criteria. Okay, so I think that finishes my keynote speech today. Okay. A lot of people ask, have it in their mind, why should I change? Yeah, I've been taught that way since you go to primary school, but education changes, so we need to change with time. Why does education change? Because the generation changes. Different generation has different ways of learning. Okay, this is a Teacher's Day quotes. Thanks for not making us learn the way you wanted to teach, but teaching us the way we wanted to learn. So this is all about student-centered learning. Okay, so if you really look into this, then you know teaching is just not chalk and board. Okay, it's more than that. Of course, we were taught that way. Okay, I was taught that way since forever, right? But comes the time when you have to look at the eyes of your students. When you do that, when you teach with chalk and board, whether they are in class or not. Okay, they may not be in class, although physically they are, right? So maybe you could reflect yourself on this. And lastly, this is from the 1950s, yeah? If we teach today's student as we taught yesterday's, we rob them of tomorrow. So I hope you will have some reflection on this, on the way that you teach your own students. So with that, I would like to thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Alhamdulillah. Thank you, Dr. Naziha, for such an insightful talk. I'm sure we all benefited immensely from it. I know I did personally, even though I am a research track doctor, but I think all the points that you mentioned in your slides, they all resonate very highly with me. At the end of the day, I think we are all educators at heart, as lecturers, as academicians. So it is important to keep track and keep updated with all the latest innovations and theories of learning to make us more effective and performing as educators, inshallah. So if it is okay with you, Dr. Naziha, we will now allow for a short question and answer session from the participants. So members of the audience, if you have any questions, please just feel free to speak up. Anyone?
Okay, looks like everyone is fully prepared for this. Okay.
All are already prepared.
Yes.
Morning, Prof. I'm Eileen. Maybe I
Okay.
have a bit of question. So how do you cater to a class with different student requirements? For example, some students would prefer the more traditional teaching method because we are learning theories regarding to engineering principles, while some others may prefer the maybe more active type of learning activity. So how do you balance that out?
Okay, first of all, when I first started doing, for example, my first initiative was actually problem-based learning. Okay, you need to convince the students. That is number one. Before you start on anything, you have to sit with the student and actually talk to them about learning, right? I always start my class with that. Okay, how do you actually want to make sure that you can retain your knowledge from class longer as compared to if I want to lecture you all the time and just explain to you. I showed them evidence. Yeah, there is a research evidence that your retention rate is more when you actively involve rather than when you listen. Okay, I often show that slide to the student. Okay, so that will convince them that why are you doing this? Why is it that you're not teaching us? Why are you lecturing? You are not lecturing. You're a lecturer. You're supposed to lecture us. Okay, only from my experience, only those very good students do not prefer to have activities in class. So before I start my class, I would always do that. It's called you actually supporting the students' feeling about the way that you want to have the class running. Okay, you cannot just come into the class and just, okay, today we're going to have activities. I know you have to start first with why. Why is it that you are not teaching? You are not lecturing. But of course, I often, like, first 15 minutes, I will lecture a bit. Okay, I will give them some ideas on what is to be done today and what is the topic involved. So these are the kinds of things that you need to do with your students, because it just cannot happen like a robot, something that you come in, okay, today is going to be like this. You have to inform them. Okay, they need to know why you want to do it that way. So as I mentioned, there is a research evidence on that. Okay, that you retain your memory longer when you do things. That means immersive experiential learning is better than you learning and listening from other people. Okay, and on top of that, if you put students in groups work together, you are actually building their characteristic so that they become open-minded. Yeah, they become they can communicate with their peers. You know, these are all professional skills that students are or our graduates are required to exhibit when they actually graduate from our program. When they go to the industry, they cannot be sitting quietly, not talking. And I heard that from feedback from industry is that our students are good in terms of knowledge, okay, but they cannot convey the knowledge when they go to the industry. That is based on what I heard. Okay, sometimes they work with students from other universities, like for example UITM. Okay, they have ideas, they will convey it to their friend from UITM who actually has better communication skills. That's what I heard. And this student will actually convey the ideas coming from UTM students, which I think is you know, it's something that we are losing. So we should encourage our students to be involved in activities so that they are more confident to talk, right? So if they have this kind of training, then only we will be producing students who are holistic in characteristic. These are the things that you need to tell your students. Then only they will appreciate it. You cannot just be bookworms and actually go to the industry and become good professional. Okay, Dr. Eileen, did I answer your question? Okay, you have
Yes, thank you very much.
to convince them. Yes. Okay, and this is not something new. I experienced the same thing when I wanted to do cooperative learning or problem-based learning with my students. But Alhamdulillah, eventually most of them cooperate. Initially, there are some who actually rebels, you know, they don't want this that way. And I also know there are some practitioners who actually started with problem-based learning being rejected, yeah, by the students who actually complained to the dean. And that was like 20 years ago. Okay. And in the end, they have to decided not to be abandoned. They abandoned the problem-based learning in the course because they cannot, you know, they don't know how to tackle it. But as I said, you have to start with convincing the students first. All right. Okay. That's my answer.
Thank you, Dr. Eileen.
Salam. Yes.
I'm Nadia. I have a question here, Dr. Naziha.
Sure.
For lecturers who are in the research track and want to maintain research track for promotion, but at the same time also interested in teaching, how serious should our involvement be in the corridor of what you call it, subtle?
Subtle, yes.
Yeah, subtle. Because sometimes we are at the crossroads, you know, planning how much effort should be placed in teaching and then research. Because sometimes we are afraid if our efforts in subtle or teaching efforts is not really recognized during at the end of the year SKT.
Actually, based on what I discussed in our DCP group, okay, I also we also had to convince the committee that even if staff choose teaching track, they will still contribute to research, which is research in their own teaching. So that is actually counted, yeah, in the number of publications for calculation by the university on our MIRA, because it's still considered as publication. You publish it in anything, in conferences, the treatment will be the same. Yeah. For teaching track also, you can have high impact. You can also publish in high impact journals. Of course, those who are actually properly trained for this. Okay. Even when you say that you're on research track, you can actually contribute the publication, but based on your learning and teaching, which is subtle. Okay. Scholarship of teaching and learning. You can Google for this. It's a lot of material on scholarship of teaching and learning. Okay? So it's all about research on your own course. That is why what you put in your car, okay, you write your reflection, right? You think of some improvement that can be made. If you put your soul in it, then it's actually contributing to the work that can become a conference publication or further in journal publication. I mean, it is possible. I have done it actually. It is counted, right, as publication. Okay, I wrote a paper on PBL. I wrote a paper on problem-based learning itself, a problem-based laboratory, and also I had a student in from CEE, Center for Engineering Education. So I have a PhD student doing work. I had one who already graduated doing work on problem solving. Okay, how you actually design assessment criteria for measuring problem solving outcomes. Yeah, because sometimes we don't know how do we actually say that this student is a good problem solver. So you know, we actually can have a framework on that. And I also have publications in currently I have a student working on EMT. Okay, how to best teach EMT. Okay, so because these are some, usually we do research on work which is, we found that students are not able to achieve the learning outcome well. So we try to work out on why this is happening. What I did for my problem-based learning, I did for 2 courses earlier on, is based on a problem statement, which is students were not able to answer the test or exam given well, even though I teach them many times, I showed it on the board, still they cannot understand well, and they don't answer the question well in the exam or test. So that is when I started to create a problem, and then everybody has to solve the problem. Everybody has to be alert and actually engage themselves in the topic. And I found that with that, they can actually score better. Okay, that means they are involved, not me teaching them, but they are involved in the work on how to do the calculation and so on. So I did this for 2 courses. I did not do problem-based learning for all topics in class, of course, but I chose some topics which are difficult for students to appreciate and answer well. So this is how I do it. And I did my research, my publication based on those experience. Okay. So I don't think there is any issue on you being in research. In fact, I'm also in research track. I did not choose teaching because I don't feel that I have enough time to actually plan and accumulate all the data, the requirements to fulfill all the requirements for teaching. It's not because I'm already in the ending side. But if you are a new lecturer, you are like 5 years, less than 10 years in UTM, then I think you still have time to start planning, accumulating whatever the criteria that you need to fulfill. Okay, so that's
Thank you very much. Another question. I understand about the outcomes of research in education for research tracks, but what about membership in teaching and learning societies, testimonies, and so on? Is it important for research track-based lecturers?
For research, people in research track, testimony is still required if you see from your basic competency requirement when you fill in your ELPPT. There is a testimony there, right? One of the criteria, which you actually put in whatever good comments that your students give from your EPPP. Okay, you can put it there, or you can have other means of getting the feedback from student. It can also be something verbally mentioned, but best is when you have a proof, like maybe a WhatsApp conversation indicating that the students actually, not really a conversation, but usually end of semester, if you did well in your teaching, students will appreciate you and will send you WhatsApp remarks to say that they appreciate your learning, your teaching, especially when you put us in a group or things like that. Okay, because it's just not a simple peer review, simple testimony from the student just to say that you are a good teacher. No, but they have to explain a bit. But usually when it comes from the heart, student will write down what they feel. I do get that actually, but not often. It depends on the students. Some students are very appreciative. Okay, so those are the things that you actually snap and put it in your testimony. Those are the evidence. Many other evidence, of course. right? That you can obtain. You have to be a bit creative on that. But of course, as I mentioned, you have to be careful on the integrity part. Make sure that you are not really forcing them to write good things about you. But it is based on the way you teach the student, the way you portray yourself in class. So that will actually comes from the heart by the student to actually write something good about you. Okay. All right. Did I answer your question, Dr. Nadia? It still counts for your BC.
Yeah, thank you very much.
For those who will be promoted, I'm not sure if there will be changes to be made, but as we have done now, as we have the framework that we have now is that only those from teaching track, only those from teaching track will have to go through the teaching observation when they go for VK7 and above. Like in your case, you're already 54, so that you will not have any issues on teaching observation or things like that. Okay, because this will only be for those who chose teaching track. Even if they go for VK7, they will have to go through teaching observation. But of course, this is what I'm saying is for now. So, and they are currently reviewing this. So maybe there will be no teaching observation. I'm not sure. Okay. But for 54, those going into 54, regardless of whether you are teaching track or non-teaching track, there will be class observation. Okay. Why? Because we're going to get that testimony from your peers and also from the expert. You see from the framework that I showed just now, it's like that. But as I said, if they change that, then there will be no teaching observation. Okay?
Okay,
But
okay. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Yes, but you still have fulfill the basic competency, okay, which is already in your ELPPT. Okay?
All right. Okay, thank you so much. I do apologize. We do have to move on.
Yes.
So thank you again, Dr. Naziha. Ladies and gentlemen, I do ask that you all stay put. Before we go for a break, we will now briefly have an official group photo session for everyone. And this includes our keynote speaker, Dr. Naziha, participants, organizing committee members, and also volunteers. So please don't leave just yet. Associate Professor Dr. Shahrin from the organizing committee will be in charge of the photo session. So whenever you're ready, Dr. Shahrin.
Okay, hold on. Okay, maybe you can all turn on your camera. Okay, how to this one? Hold on. Sorry. This one. Oh, sorry. How to ni sebab sekarang nampak saya punya screen ni, Dr. Zaid.
Unpin me, if you can unpin me.
Dr. Sharin, it's okay. Let me snap the picture.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So
Okay,
everyone, so we have two slides. So first slide, okay, just smile. 1, 2, 3. Wait. Sorry, another one. Sekejap, lambat. Okay. 1, 2. Sorry, kejap 1, 2, 3. Smile. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Zaila. So many thanks again to Dr. Naziha, our keynote presenter, for that wonderful knowledge sharing session. This session, I believe, serves as a fantastic opener to what will hopefully be a full day of symposium and presentations and more knowledge sharing sessions for the rest of today. And with regards to this, I invite Dr. Mitra Muhammad Adi from the organizing committee to give a short briefing on the details of today's parallel presentation session. Over to you, Dr. Mitra.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Zaid. So I'll just brief shortly about the program overview. So we have listened to the welcoming remarks, opening speech and keynote address. So now from 10 to 10:15 is the transition time. So you can take some break time before we start the parallel session for session 1 and parallel session 2, which will be from 10:15 a.m. till 12:35 p.m. So in these two sessions, the papers that will be presented are about teaching and learning innovations. So feel free to join any of the session. And at 12:35 till 2 p.m. we will have a break. And then we will continue with the afternoon session at 2:10. So between 2 to 2:10, we have this transition time as well. So we'll give you some time to settle down to join the link for parallel session 3 and parallel session 4. So parallel session 3 and parallel session 4 is about teaching and learning in COVID-19 time, and also teaching and learning with technology. Then at 4 till 4:30 p.m. We will join back together at the same link that you are joining the main event now for the award and closing ceremony. So for the 4 different parallel sessions, we have different links for those 4 sessions. Dr. Fadli, can you share the slide? The next slide. Yeah. So these are the 4 different link for the sessions. You can also look at the, you can also obtain the link for the sessions in our website. Can someone from the program committee maybe share the link for session 1 and session 2 in the chat box? We will share the link for session 1 and session 2 in the chat box. So you can either access it from there, or you can also look at the program book in the website to get the link. So I think that's all from me.
Okay, noted with thanks, Dr. Mitra. As mentioned, we will begin our parallel sessions shortly after the break, and the link to the sessions can be found in the chat box and also on the conference or symposium website. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the opening ceremony and the keynote presentation. It has been a real pleasure to host you all this morning. I thank everyone for joining in, and I wish you all happy symposiuming. So I will see you all again at the closing ceremony at 4 p.m. Till then, goodbye. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.